Imagine yourself drifting gently, as if carried by an invisible current through the dark ocean of space. All around you, stars twinkle faintly like scattered lanterns across the endless sky, some cold and distant, others burn with quiet intensity, and hidden among them are strange worlds, exoplanets, each one different, each a mystery, waiting to be touched by the imagination. Tonight, we are not explorers in the conventional sense. We are dreamers, and together, we will drift from one strange shore to another, as if following a bedtime story whispered by the universe itself. Scientists tell us that there are more than 5,000 confirmed exoplanets orbiting distant stars, and many more are yet to be discovered. Some are super-Earths, larger and more massive than our own. Some are scorched so close to their stars that their grounds are rivers of fire. Others orbit pale suns where icy winds sweep across locked hemispheres of eternal day and eternal night. And some, at least from a distance, look so Earth-like that they tempt us to believe in new homes among the stars. But beauty can be deceiving. These worlds, while alluring, harbor dangers we can scarcely imagine. Atmospheres that can choke us, storms fiercer than lightning, rains that are not water, but acid. Even light and radiation, the very energy of the stars, can be hostile, tearing apart the fragile human body. Yet on this gentle journey, we will not rush or fear. Instead, we will walk slowly, as if walking barefoot in a dream. Each world will reveal a lesson about survival, about fragility, about the smallness of our little Earth. So take a deep breath. Let the hum of the universe settle in your chest. This is not a space race. It is a lullaby of the stars, carrying you through light years, planet by planet, until sleep comes as gently as starlight on water. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the stories. So where do we start? With Kepler 2b, a super-Earth that seems like home until we look closer. Kepler 2b. Its name might sound simple, like a note in a cosmic catalogue, but this world is anything but ordinary. Imagine a sphere more than twice the size of Earth, heavy with hidden weight, a place where gravity presses down like an invisible hand, holding everything closer to its surface. From far away, it looks calm, swirling clouds, perhaps a glint of blue, but once you step closer, the picture begins to shift. Some scientists believe Kepler 2b might have an atmosphere rich in oxygen. At first, that feels like a gift. Oxygen is the breath of life, the invisible thread that ties our bodies to every sunrise on Earth. You might imagine pulling off your helmet and inhaling deeply, filling your lungs with this alien air. But too much of even a good thing can be dangerous. Oxygen, when it grows too abundant, becomes like a flame burning inside the body. Your blood absorbs it. Your cells spark too brightly. And soon, the balance is lost. What once gave life begins to steal it back. This is called hyperoxia, an invisible drowning in the very air you thought would save you. Picture it gently. Your vision narrowing, as though you are peering through a tunnel. Your fingers trembling, not from fear, but from the quiet overload of oxygen's embrace. At first, there is even a strange euphoria, a dreamy lightness, like floating in a fishbowl of endless air. But then, the body begins to unravel. Muscles twitch, nausea rises, and within minutes, the rhythm of the heart falters. And here, on Kepler 2b, the problem does not end with oxygen alone. Remember, its size, its mass. Gravity here would make every breath heavier, every step slower, every heartbeat work harder. The pressure of the air might be so immense that it pushes not just on your chest, but into your blood itself, forcing oxygen in faster than your body can bear. From a distance, this world glimmers like a second Earth. Up close, it reveals itself as a fragile trap, as though nature itself built a glass bowl around it, filling it with too much of what we thought we needed. Kepler 2b becomes a reminder that balance, delicate, invisible balance, is what makes Earth so rare. And oxygen is only the beginning. Other gases drift through Kepler 2b skies, and some are not so forgiving. Our next step brings us deeper into the breath of this alien planet, where air itself can turn against us in ways even more unsettling. On Earth, we live under an ocean of air. We barely notice it, because our bodies have grown used to its steady weight. One atmosphere pressing on us at all times. But imagine if that invisible ocean were thicker, heavier, more relentless. That is the air of Kepler 2b. This planet is a giant compared to us, more than twice the size of Earth, and many times its mass. Gravity here does not simply hold you down. It embraces you, firmly, unyielding. Each step feels like wading through deep water. Each breath like pulling against the tide. The pressure of the atmosphere, dense and layered, would push down into your chest, as though the sky itself wanted to squeeze the life out of you. Now imagine this pressure mixing with an oxygen-rich atmosphere. The two combine into a quiet storm inside your body. The lungs, delicate as sea foam, begin to collapse under the invisible weight. The cardiovascular system, the network of vessels that carries the rhythm of life, starts to falter. Within minutes, balance gives way. At first, you would feel only a subtle trembling, a twitch in your hands, a quiver in your face. Then, nausea, creeping in like a slow tide. Vision would narrow, the world dimming at its edges. The air, though full of oxygen, would betray you, flooding your blood faster than your body could control. It is not a violent end, but a suffocating one, like a flower overwatered, drowning in the very element it depends on. The more you try to breathe, the worse it becomes, until the body simply cannot keep pace. Standing on Kepler 2b would feel as though you were caught inside a vast, unseen fist. Every direction presses inward. Every breath reminds you that this world was not made for human lungs. And still, oxygen and pressure are only part of the story. The air of Kepler 2b could hold other secrets, gases we cannot yet name, poisons that drift unseen, each one rewriting the rules of survival. Let us drift now into those hidden vapors, where even the act of breathing may become a quiet surrender. Breath is such a simple rhythm. Inhale, exhale. We rarely notice it, until the air turns against us. On Kepler 2b, there is another danger waiting in the atmosphere, quieter than too much oxygen, but no less deadly. On Earth, this gas drifts around us in small amounts, exhaled with every sigh. Trees and oceans drink it in, balancing the cycle. But if Kepler 2b carries too much of it in its skies, every breath would become a poison. This condition is called hypercapnia, when carbon dioxide floods the blood faster than the body can expel it. The change comes quickly. Within moments of breathing this air, your lungs would begin to ache, pulling harder and faster in a desperate attempt to clear the gas. The heart, loyal but panicked, would race. Pressure would build in the brain like a storm swelling behind closed doors, and vision would blur into darkness at the edges. Soon, nausea would rise, heavy and relentless. The body would tremble, muscles convulsing as if shivering from an invisible fever. Seizures could follow, the nervous system overwhelmed by a flood it cannot fight. And at last, the heart would falter under the weight of too much carbon dioxide, collapsing like a candle flame, starved of oxygen. The strangest part is how deceptive it feels. Unlike too much oxygen, which begins with a brief, light-headed euphoria, carbon dioxide does not soothe you before it strikes. There is no pleasant dream at its beginning, only heaviness, breathlessness, and a mounting panic that no air can ease. Standing on Kepler 2b, you might look up and see clouds glowing softly in alien skies. You might even marvel for a moment at how Earth-like it seems. But with each breath, the poison would spread further inside you, faster than your body could escape. The very act of inhaling the instinct that ties us to life would lead you deeper into stillness. And this is just one gas we know. Imagine then what might drift unseen in an alien atmosphere. Chemicals we cannot yet measure. Vapors that could burn from the inside or from the outside. Kepler 22b may hold mysteries not only of beauty, but of dangers far stranger than anything we breathe on Earth. When we imagine other worlds, our minds often paint them with familiar colors, blue skies, white clouds, maybe the green of forests. But alien atmospheres may be painted with brushes we do not yet understand. On Kepler 22b, beyond oxygen and carbon dioxide, there could be countless other gases swirling in the air, each one invisible to the eye, yet powerful enough to decide your fate with a single breath. Some might be corrosive, slipping into the lungs and burning from the inside, like silent embers hidden in mist. Others might cling to the skin itself, scalding with every droplet, leaving behind nothing but pain. Imagine standing in air that feels soft and cool, only to discover it is lined with needles finer than sight. Science reminds us of what we know: sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, chlorine-based vapors. But on an alien planet, the chemistry of the sky could be stranger still, gases that do not exist on Earth, compounds that sparkle for moments before dissolving into acid, invisible poisons evolving from minerals deep below. And we would have no warning. There is no scent, no color, no signal in the clouds. You could remove your helmet, hopeful for fresh air, and in the next moment, feel your throat close, as though the planet itself had spoken the word no. Even rain here might not be water. With the right blend of chemicals, clouds could darken and spill acid, each drop carving the ground like a sculptor's hand. What we call a storm on Earth might be, on Kepler 22b, a baptism of fire from the sky. This is the paradox of alien atmospheres. They can appear calm and beautiful, like a painting seen from orbit, yet hold chaos within every breath. It is a reminder that nature, whether on Earth or a distant world, always seeks balance, but not always the kind of balance humans can endure. And as the sky turns turbulent, another force of this planet begins to awaken. Lightning, storms, and winds beyond imagination, the sound of a world breathing in thunder. Storms are familiar to us. On Earth, they roll across the sky with dark clouds, flashes of lightning, and the steady rhythm of rain. We hear them as lullabies of thunder. We watch them from windows, sometimes afraid, sometimes comforted by their passing. But on Kepler 22b, storms may not be familiar at all. They could be something far greater, far louder, an orchestra of chaos playing on a planetary scale. Imagine clouds stacked higher than mountains, their bellies heavy with chemicals unknown to Earth. From within them, lightning arcs, not in brief flashes, but in bolts so powerful they could light the sky from horizon to horizon. Gigavolt, lightning millions of times stronger than the flickers we know, splitting the heavens again and again. And then, the rain begins. Not gentle drops of water nourishing the ground, but acid, born from gases in the atmosphere. Each droplet strikes like a blade, burning into soil, rock, or skin. Here, it corrodes. The landscape is reshaped not by rivers flowing over time, but by storms carving furrows in hours. Winds howl too, driven by the dense atmosphere and the energy of a sun that warms this distant world. They race across the surface, dragging with them debris, chemicals, and endless force. To stand in such a storm would be like stepping into the breath of a giant. One exhale, and you are swept away. Yet even as they terrify, these storms also carry a strange beauty. Imagine standing in shelter, watching the sky glow and crackle, thunder rolling endlessly. Imagine rain that glitters as it falls, leaving glowing scars on the rocks. It would be terrible, yes, but it would also be mesmerizing, the kind of sight that lingers in the heart long after fear has passed. On Kepler 22b, storms are not passing visitors. They are part of the planet's nature, constant, immense, eternal. And if you survived long enough to look up, you might see beyond them, into the starlit sky, where other worlds wait, worlds gathered tightly together, circling a small red Sunday. Worlds like those in the TRAPPIST-1 system, a family of planets so close they can see each other in the dark. Far beyond Kepler 22b lies one of the most extraordinary sights ever discovered, a system of worlds bound tightly together, like siblings huddled close around a gentle fire. This is TRAPPIST-1, a faint red star, smaller and cooler than our Sun, but hosting 7 Earth-sized planets in its embrace. Imagine standing on one of those planets, perhaps TRAPPIST-1d, and looking up into the sky. You would not see a lonely moon hanging far away. Instead, you would see whole other planets, some larger than our moon appears to us, glowing like lanterns just across the darkness. They would rise and set with breathtaking speed, drifting across the sky as if you could almost reach out and touch them. The TRAPPIST system is compact, its planets circling closer together than Mercury orbits our Sunday. Their distances are so small that the space between them feels more like a neighborhood than a solar system. The gravity of each world tugs on its neighbors, pulling them into delicate rhythms, a cosmic dance that has lasted for billions of years. Scientists believe that at least 3 of these worlds sit in the habitable zone, where liquid water could flow across their surfaces. That word habitable lights up the imagination. Oceans, clouds, rivers, perhaps even the building blocks of life. To dream of TRAPPIST-1 is to dream of many Earths shining side by side, a cluster of possible homes in the sky. And yet, as always, beauty carries its shadows. When planets are this close, danger travels easily between them. Asteroids torn apart by one world's gravity can fall as fiery showers on another. The very nearness that makes them appear as companions in the sky also makes them vulnerable, bound together in cycles of creation and destruction. But from the quiet of a distant telescope, TRAPPIST-1 glows like a cradle of worlds. 7 planets, 7 possibilities, circling a faint red star that flickers like a candle in the cosmic dark. It feels less like a system and more like a family. Planets bound not just by orbit, but by story. And we are invited, gently, to step closer. Beginning with TRAPPIST-1d, where the skies are alive with both beauty and danger. Imagine standing on the surface of TRAPPIST-1d. The ground beneath you feels firm, though alien. A faint red glow washes the horizon, cast by the small, cool star at the center of this system. It is not as blinding as our Sun, but softer, more like twilight stretched across the day. Now, lift your eyes upward. What you see would take your breath away. Hanging in the sky are other planets, close enough to appear larger than the moon does on Earth. Some glow pale against the darkness, others burn with a subtle hue. They drift slowly across the heavens, moving not like stars but like companions so near that you could trace their outlines with your finger. From TRAPPIST-1d, you might see TRAPPIST-1c and TRAPPIST-1e, rising and setting, their orbits painting them across the sky in graceful arcs. The sight would feel less like astronomy and more like a dream. On Earth, we gaze at distant dots of light and wonder what worlds may circle them. Here, the wonder answers back worlds are not distant, but visible, crowding the sky like silent neighbors. It is almost like living inside a gallery of planets, each one a window into a different story. Oceans may shimmer on one, ice may glisten on another, and though you cannot step across the space between them, their presence fills you with the feeling of belonging to something larger, a family of worlds bound by the same small star. For a moment, the dangers of alien air and storms fade. All you feel is awe, as though you are looking not at threats, but at companions shining above. It is a reminder that beauty can exist even in the harshest corners of the universe, waiting quietly for us to notice. But beauty, as always, is only half the truth. In a system this tightly bound, dangers can arrive suddenly from above, from the void between worlds. Meteors torn apart by gravity become showers of fire, streaking across the skies of TRAPPIST-1d, and that is where our journey drifts next. The sky of TRAPPIST-1d is breathtaking, but not always gentle. In a system where planets huddle so closely together, gravity weaves an intricate net, tugging at passing asteroids and comets. What might glide safely past in another star system is often pulled apart here, its pieces scattered like shards of glass across the void. And those shards do not stay in space, they fall. On TRAPPIST-1d, the meteor showers would not be the fleeting streaks we admire on Earth. Instead, they could arrive as storms of fire, fragments blazing through the atmosphere, painting the sky with ribbons of light before striking the ground with unforgiving force. Imagine standing beneath such a spectacle. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, of fiery trails cascading across the heavens. From a distance, it might look like a festival of stars, but each glowing streak is a stone moving faster than sound, carrying enough energy to shatter rock, to carve craters, to ignite the very ground beneath it. Here, beauty and destruction arrive together. What the eye sees as wonder, the body feels as threat. To watch a meteor storm on TRAPPIST-1D would be to stand at the edge of awe and fear, caught between the desire to marvel and the need to hide. Asteroids breaking apart, fragments raining down, it is the price of living in a crowded neighborhood of worlds. Where gravity binds planets close, it also stirs chaos, pulling wandering rocks into orbits that cross and collide. This cycle repeats endlessly. Worlds tugging at stones, stones striking worlds. The family of TRAPPIST planets shaping and reshaping each other through impacts older than memory. For humans, such storms would be impossible to endure without shelter. For the planet itself, they are simply part of its story. Every scar in the landscape, every crater stretching wide, tells of an ancient night when the sky rained fire, and even when the meteors fade, another danger sweeps in, a danger not of stone, but of energy itself. The star at the heart of TRAPPIST-1 breathes out winds, not of air but of charged particles, rushing faster than any storm on Earth. And on TRAPPIST-1D, those stellar winds shape the atmosphere, the weather, and the fragile line between survival and destruction. When we think of wind, we imagine air brushing against our skin, bending trees, or carrying clouds across the sky. But on TRAPPIST-1D, the winds are not made of air at all. They are streams of particles, racing outward from the star, an invisible tide of energy known as stellar wind. These gusts cannot be felt as a breeze, yet their force is immense. Each rush of particles slams into the planet's upper atmosphere, heating it, stretching it, and sometimes stripping it away entirely. It is as if the star itself exhales with such violence that the very sky begins to peel back. From the surface, you might not see the wind, but you would feel its effects. The atmosphere would pulse like a living thing swelling under the star's breath, then shrinking when the storm fades. Each cycle would change the pressure on the ground below, creating sudden shifts in weather. Temperatures would soar as the wind expands the air, then plummet when it recedes, a rhythm of extremes repeating again and again. To stand beneath such a cycle would be disorienting. One moment, the world feels stifling, heavy with heat. The next, the air grows thin and sharp, leaving you gasping as if the planet itself had forgotten how to breathe. It is not the kind of storm you can shelter from, because it comes not from clouds above, but from the star itself, reaching across space to shake the planet's skin. Over time, these winds carve away at TRAPPIST-1D's protection. Atmosphere thins, heat builds, and the fragile shield between surface and space becomes weaker. This is how a star shapes its planets, not only with light, but with force, sculpting their skies like clay. And here, in this system, there is no long pause between gusts. TRAPPIST-1, though small and dim compared to our Sun, breathes out these winds constantly, wrapping its planets in cycles of chaos. To humans, it would be unbearable. To the planets, it is simply the way of things. But this is not the end of the strangeness. TRAPPIST-1D, like many worlds close to their stars, is tidally locked. One side forever faces the light. The other is locked in a darkness that never ends. Between these halves, winds rush constantly, carrying heat from fire to frost, sculpting a world of eternal contrasts. Picture a planet where the sun never moves. One side always faces the star, locked in a glare of endless daylight. The other remains forever turned away. A land of night, so deep that no dawn will ever arrive. This is the reality of TRAPPIST-1D. On the day side, the ground bakes under constant light. Temperatures climb higher and higher, not softened by sunsets or cooled by evenings. Rocks heat until they glow faintly with the star's warmth. The air shimmers, restless, as though the planet itself is exhaling heat into the sky. Cross to the other side, and the story changes. Here, the landscape sleeps beneath a sky that never brightens. Frozen plains stretch outward, quiet and unmoving, carved by winds that steal warmth away faster than any fire can give it back. Stars fill the heavens, but the little red glow of TRAPPIST-1 never rises above the horizon. Between these two halves lies a twilight border, a narrow ring of eternal dusk. Here, the star hovers forever at the horizon, casting long shadows but never rising higher. It is in this narrow band that survival might be possible. Winds rush constantly from the overheated day side to the frozen night side, creating powerful currents of air. Storms churn in the in-between, where heat and cold meet in endless conflict. To walk this twilight zone would be surreal. In one direction, a horizon burning with heat. In the other, darkness that swallows every shape. Above you, the winds roar not with sound alone, but with force, pulling the world's extremes together in a fragile balance. For life, if it exists here, it would have to cling to this middle ground, neither too hot nor too cold, enduring winds that never rest. To humans, such a world would feel like standing at the edge of two different planets, with each step pulling you closer to fire or ice. Yet even this fragile balance cannot last untouched, for when the stellar winds strengthen, the atmosphere itself swells, and the heat spreads in waves, fast, rising, and merciless. On Earth, heat rises and falls with the passing of days. Morning coolness gives way to noon warmth, and evening brings relief. But on TRAPPIST-1d, there is no gentle rhythm. When the stellar winds surge, the atmosphere itself swells, like a drum skin struck too hard, and the ground below responds with sudden, merciless heat. At first, it is subtle. The air feels heavy, pressing close against your skin. Then, almost without warning, the warmth begins to climb. 35 degrees, 40, 50. Each moment adds another layer of heat, rising faster than your body can adapt. What felt like a warm afternoon becomes an oven of invisible fire. The ground radiates with energy, baking from above and below. Rocks shimmer in the distance, their outlines bending in the haze. Sweat, which on Earth cools us, here only hastens dehydration. The body pleads for shade, but there is none. The light never shifts, never softens. Imagine standing in this furnace as the numbers rise. 70 degrees, 80, perhaps more. The very air vibrates with heat, a shimmer that blurs the world as though seen through water. The brain grows sluggish, thoughts flickering like candle flames in a gust. Muscles weaken, refusing to obey, and all the while, the star above glows faintly red, as if unaware of the suffering it causes below. The suddenness is what makes it so disorienting. One moment, you might believe you could adapt to the twilight band, to the winds that circle endlessly between light and dark. The next, the atmosphere shifts, and the temperature leaps as though the planet itself has remembered its star is too close, too strong, too eager to burn. It is in these moments that TRAPPIST-1d reveals its truth. Not a world of balance, but of extremes. Not a quiet dusk, but a battlefield between fire and frost, where the winds carry not comfort, but chaos. And yet, as dangerous as it seems, TRAPPIST-1d is still considered one of the most promising candidates for habitability in its system. To imagine life clinging to such a place is to imagine resilience itself, creatures shaped not by gentleness, but by survival. But if TRAPPIST-1d tests the body with heat and cold, our next stop is a planet that tempts the heart with familiarity, only to remind us how alien it truly is. A world often called Earth's twin. Kepler, 186 farads. Somewhere, 40 light-years away, circles a planet that captures the imagination more than most. When astronomers first discovered it, their voices carried a quiet excitement. This was the first Earth-sized planet ever found within the habitable zone of its star. It is only 10% larger than Earth, 40% more massive, close enough to make us whisper the word twin. Its orbit lies at just the right distance, where liquid water might flow on the surface. When we picture it, we often paint it green and blue, with oceans and continents, clouds drifting lazily across skies that look almost like our own. And for a moment, standing there in imagination feels comforting. The ground is firm. The air is cool. Perhaps 23 degrees. A spring day by Earth's measure. The star above glows softer than the sun, casting a light that feels calm, almost golden. You look around and see life's strange plants rising from the soil, reaching toward the faint warmth of their Sunday. Perhaps forests, perhaps grasslands, perhaps something unlike either. It feels like home. A home written in another language, but still one we can almost read. But this is where caution stirs. Life may exist here, but life does not always welcome outsiders. Plants on Kepler 186 farads may release spores, not the harmless pollen of Earth, but alien dust shaped by evolution we cannot predict. What seems like a gentle breath of fresh air could become a storm inside the lungs. Even the balance of gases is uncertain. Oxygen may be abundant enough to tempt you to remove your helmet. But what if it is too high, flooding the blood as it did on Kepler 2? Or if hidden traces of unfamiliar chemicals linger, silent and poisonous, a world that looks inviting may still conceal dangers invisible to the eye. Still, Kepler 186 farads holds a unique place in our imagination. It reminds us that other Earths may exist, that the universe may not hold just one pale blue dot, but many. It is a mirror, not perfect, but enough to stir dreams. Yet as you stand in its fields, gazing at alien skies, a shadow begins to gather above. Clouds form, dark and heavy, their scent sharp. Rain begins to fall, but not the rain you know. Droplets strike the ground, sizzling faintly, reshaping the soil with every splash. On Kepler 186 farads, storms may fall as acid, a reminder that beauty often carries its own edge of danger. Life on Earth has shaped every breath we take. The oxygen in our lungs, the food on our tables, even the soil beneath our feet, each is the result of billions of years of evolution. But what happens when we step onto a world where evolution followed a different path? Kepler 186 farads, so Earth-like in size and climate, tempts us with familiarity. Yet within that familiarity may lie dangers we cannot see. Imagine wandering through meadows of alien plants. Their shapes are strange spirals, lattices, fractals of geometry that Earth's forests never learned. They shimmer faintly under their star's softer glow, releasing spores that drift lazily in the air. At first, they seem harmless, no different from pollen carried by Earth's breezes. But these spores are born of another world, crafted by chemistries unknown to us. On Earth, we can sneeze at pollen, brush away dust, recover quickly. But on Kepler 186 farads, these microscopic travelers could be toxic, clinging to lungs and bloodstreams, rewriting the body's balance cell by cell. A single breath might trigger fevers, convulsions, or quiet suffocation, as though the planet itself whispers, "You do not belong here." And even if the plants offer no threat, the microbes might. Bacteria, viruses, life forms, too small to see yet powerful enough to unravel the human body. Our immune systems, sharpened for Earth, would not recognize them. They would slip past our defenses like shadows, multiplying unchecked. This is the paradox of Kepler 186 farads. It looks welcoming, even comforting, a place where the air feels mild, where the soil could grow food, where the sky promises warmth. But every step forward carries a question. Is this beauty truly safe? Or is it a mask for dangers more subtle than storms or radiation? It reminds us that habitable does not always mean habitable for us. Life may thrive here, but it is life tuned to a different song, one we may never learn to sing. And as if the spores and microbes were not enough, the sky itself adds its warning. For even here, rain can turn from blessing to curse. The clouds gather, and the water that falls does not nourish, it burns. Acid rain hisses across stone and leaf, a storm that reshapes the world with every drop. Rain, on Earth, is a comfort. We hear it tapping against windows, soft and steady, lulling us into calm. It nourishes soil, fills rivers, and paints the air with freshness. But on Kepler 186 farads, rain may arrive not as a gift, but as a quiet punishment. Imagine dark clouds gathering across the horizon. Their shapes strange but familiar enough to fool you into thinking of spring showers. A drop falls onto your glove, and instead of cool water, it sears. The hiss is faint, like a whisper, but the mark it leaves is sharp and immediate. This is not water, it is acid, born from gases in the planet's air. How does such rain form? Water vapor rises, cools, condenses, and falls again. On Kepler 186 farads, the cycle is the same, but the ingredients are different. Volcanic activity could fill the skies with sulfur dioxide, or minerals decaying deep below could release chemicals into the atmosphere. When these vapors mix with clouds, the droplets that form carry acid instead of purity. Each drop reshapes the land it touches. Rocks wear down, etched and scarred in hours instead of centuries. Plants adapt with thick skins or secret chemistry, evolving to withstand storms that carve rather than nurture. To an unprotected human, even a few moments in such rainfall could be devastating, skin burning. Eyes blinded, lungs scalded by vapor rising from the ground. It is a reminder that familiar forms, clouds, rain, rivers do not always mean familiar safety. On alien worlds, the cycles of nature can look the same but carry entirely different consequences. And yet, watching such a storm from shelter would carry its own haunting beauty. Lightning flickering behind black clouds, glowing sheets of rain falling like silver fire, the land steaming as if it breathes. It is terrible, yes, but it is also mesmerizing, like the universe reminding us that creation and destruction are often woven together. Kepler 186 farads offers us a glimpse of Earth's reflection. But the closer we look, the more its edges sharpen. To stand beneath its skies is to feel both wonder and warning, a balance as fragile as the air itself. Our journey now turns to another neighbor among the stars, one even closer to us than TRAPPIST or Kepler worlds, Proxima Centauri b, orbiting the nearest star to our own. But this closeness does not bring comfort. It brings fire. Only 4.2 light-years away, circling the closest star to our Sun, lies Proxima Centauri b. Its name carries a promise. The nearest, the possible first step if humanity ever dreams of leaving home. But proximity does not mean safety. If Kepler 186 farads is a mirror of Earth, then Proxima b is its shadow. The planet orbits a small red dwarf star, dimmer and cooler than the Sunday. At first glance, this might sound peaceful, even promising. But red dwarfs are restless. Their calm glow hides a temper that flares without warning. Proxima Centauri, despite its size, unleashes storms of energy so violent they outshine the star itself for precious seconds. In 2019, astronomers recorded one such flare. It blazed 14,000 times brighter than normal, turning night into searing day in the blink of an eye. Proxima b sits close to this volatile star, too close to escape its tantrums. Each flare bathes the planet in radiation, a constant bombardment that strips away atmospheres and poisons any life caught beneath. On Earth, our magnetic field shields us from such fury, deflecting most of the solar wind. But Proxima b's protection, if it ever had one, may be long gone, peeled away by centuries of stellar fire. For a human, the effect would be swift and merciless. Radiation tears at DNA, shattering the delicate instructions that hold cells together. In hours, the body's systems begin to unravel. Blood no longer forms. Organs fail. The brain swells with fluid. It is not pain alone, but a slow silencing from within, as though the body itself begins to forget how to live. And yet, If you stood there, even knowing the danger, the view might still hold you. The red star glows faint and close, casting everything in a dim light, softer than twilight, stranger than dawn. Shadows stretch long and deep, and the silence of space presses heavy all around. It is beautiful in its way, a haunting, fragile beauty, carved by violence. Proxima Centauri b reminds us that not every neighbor is a friend. The closest world may also be one of the most hostile. A paradox written into the stars. And still, the dangers do not end with radiation. Proxima b is tidally locked, one face forever scorched by its star, the other frozen in eternal night. Between them, winds roar, carrying rocks and dust with relentless force. Proxima Centauri is small, just a fraction of our sun's size. From a distance, it might look quiet, glowing faintly in the southern sky, the kind of star you could almost overlook among brighter companions. But smallness does not mean calm. In truth, this little red star is more restless than our sun has ever been. Red dwarfs live long lives, measured in trillions of years, but they carry tempers that flare in sudden, violent bursts. At unpredictable moments, Proxima Centauri brightens thousands of times over, unleashing storms of ultraviolet light and X-rays that race outward across its system. For 7 seconds in 2019, the star became a torch in the dark, shining 14,000 times brighter than usual. A flare so fierce that had Earth orbited there, it would have stripped oceans and scorched continents. These flares are not rare outbursts. They are frequent, almost daily, a rhythm of violence woven into the star's nature. And Proxima b sits close, so close that it feels every pulse, every storm, every surge of radiation. It is like living beside a volcano that never sleeps, spewing fire without warning, painting the sky with deadly light. The star's winds are no gentler. Rivers of charged particles stream outward constantly, battering the planet's atmosphere. Over centuries, such storms could peel away its protective layers, leaving the surface bare, naked, beneath the cosmic fire. For a world that might once have held oceans and clouds, this is a slow unraveling, a stripping away of its very breath. Standing on Proxima b, if such a thing were possible, the sky would reflect its star's moods. The dim red glow would sometimes flicker and swell, turning night into a crimson blaze. Shadows would leap, the air would shimmer, and radiation invisible to the eye would sink deep into every cell. It is strange to think that the star nearest to us, the one we might hope to visit first, carries within it such hostility. But that is the lesson of Proxima Centauri. Closeness is not kindness. Sometimes the nearest door leads not to shelter, but to fire. And under such relentless storms, what would it feel like to stand there, on the surface of Proxima b? What would happen inside a fragile human body, exposed to that flood of radiation? Radiation is invisible. It has no color, no scent, no sound. You cannot see it rushing toward you, nor feel it striking your skin. And yet, on Proxima Centauri b, it is everywhere, pouring from the star in waves so powerful they remake whatever they touch. The body, so carefully balanced, begins to falter almost immediately. Radiation reaches into the core of every cell, breaking apart DNA, the instructions that tell your body how to live. At first, there is no warning, no pain, no sudden flash of illness, only a silence, as if nothing has changed. But inside, change has already begun. Within hours, the damage grows. Bone marrow, where blood is born, slows and stops. Without new blood cells, oxygen can no longer flow as it should. The immune system weakens, leaving the body defenseless. The lining of the stomach and intestines begins to fail, unable to renew itself, and nausea rises like a dark tide. Fluid seeps into the brain, swelling it gently but relentlessly, pressing against thought itself. The heart strains, the lungs falter, until every system that once worked in harmony begins to stumble out of rhythm. It is not a sharp end, but a gradual unraveling, a quiet forgetting of how to live. For a human, Survival here would be measured not in days, but in hours. Even the strongest spacesuit could not block the flood of radiation released by Proxima Centauri's flares. What we call protection on Earth, the magnetic field, the thick atmosphere, are shields this world does not have. And yet, to look around as it happens would be haunting. The red star glows above, steady for now, its light painting the surface in hues of rust and dusk. Shadows stretch long, and the land lies still, as if nothing threatens at all. The danger is invisible, hidden in the very rays that make the sky glow. Radiation here is both life and death. It is the energy that powers the star, the force that makes the planet shine in our telescopes. But to anything fragile, anything human, it is also the end, and as if this were not enough, Proxima b holds another challenge. Its winds, not gentle breezes, but constant gales rushing from hot day to frozen night, carrying dust and stone at speeds that turn air into a weapon. On Earth, wind can be soothing, a breeze on the skin, a whisper through the trees. But on Proxima Centauri b, wind is something else entirely. It is not born of gentle differences in temperature or the turning of a planet. It is the constant breath of a world locked between fire and ice. One side of Proxima b always faces its star, burning beneath endless day. The other lies in eternal darkness, frozen in silence. Between them lies a line of conflict, a twilight band where hot air and cold air collide. Winds surge endlessly across this border, rushing to fill the voids, carrying the extremes from one side to the other. These are not breezes, they are gales that roar at speeds of 70 kilometers per hour or more, sweeping across plains and valleys without rest. For a human, they would be difficult to stand against. For the planet, they are simply its heartbeat, an eternal circulation of heat and cold, fire and frost. And carried within these winds are not only currents of air, but objects, dust, sand, even rocks lifted from the ground and hurled across the surface. A single pebble, carried at such speeds, becomes a bullet. A storm of stones would be a storm of knives, shredding whatever stood in its path. Imagine walking on this world, every step made under a sky the color of faded embers, every breath threatened not only by radiation but by air turned into a weapon. The ground beneath you is scoured, carved by winds that never sleep, polished smooth by the endless movement of dust and stone. And yet, even here, there is a strange rhythm. The winds are constant, yes, but they are also predictable, like tides. One could almost imagine life, if not human, then something hardier, adapting to this eternal motion, bending rather than breaking, sheltering in ways the land allows. But for us, Proxima b offers little refuge. Its light burns, its winds cut, its star betrays. To call it a home would be to call fire a shelter, and so we turn our gaze again, outward across the stars, to another world, a planet older than Earth, larger too, orbiting a star much like our own. A world some call Earth's wiser cousin, Kepler 452b. Farther from us than Proxima, yet circling a star much like our own sun, lies Kepler 452b. At first glance, it feels strangely familiar. Its parent star is a yellow G-type, nearly a twin to the Sun, and the planet itself orbits at a distance that places it squarely within the habitable zone. If Earth is our home, then Kepler 452b feels like a home away from home. But look closer, and you see the differences. This world is 60% larger than Earth and at least 5 times more massive. Its gravity would press firmly on your body, making each step heavy, each breath more demanding. And while our Earth is middle-aged, Kepler 452b has circled its star for 1.5 billion years longer. It is not a twin, but an elder. What does an older Earth look like? Perhaps its oceans have already begun to shrink, its rivers fading under the long, steady heat of its star. Its clouds might gather differently, heavy with water vapor, clinging close to the surface. The sunlight, though golden and familiar, could feel harsher here, falling across the land with the weight of centuries. And yet, life could have found a way. Plants, if they exist, would not be like ours. They would have evolved under greater gravity and stronger sunlight, hardier, thicker, stranger. Imagine forests of towering stalks with leaves like mirrors, reflecting the excess light away. Or squat, resilient growths clinging to the soil, their roots gripping hard against the pull of gravity. Walking here would feel like stepping into Earth's future, a version of our world aged and altered by time. The land might be cracked by quakes, for Kepler 452b is restless beneath its surface. Tectonic plates grind and shift, just as they do on Earth, but with more mass, more force, more violence. Mountains rise higher, valleys plunge deeper, and the planet quivers with energy stored across eons. It is both familiar and alien. Familiar in its golden skies, its Earth-like orbit, its temperate star. Alien in its weight, its age, its relentless demands. To stand on Kepler 452b would be to feel the wisdom of time pressing against your shoulders, a reminder that worlds, like people, do not remain unchanged. They grow older, and in their age, they tell stories. But even in this elder world, danger waits. For what kind of life evolves under heavier gravity and harsher light? And what happens when the very ground beneath you begins to stir? If Earth's trees are shaped by sunlight and gentle winds, then the plants of Kepler 452b must be sculpted by something far less forgiving. Gravity that pulls harder, and light that presses brighter. Picture a forest here. Not the airy canopies of Earth where branches sway freely in the breeze, but growth anchored deep and strong. Stalks thick as stone pillars, bent slightly under their own weight. Leaves small, tough, perhaps metallic in sheen, shaped to resist both the star's harsh rays and the crushing pull of the planet. Some plants might hug the ground entirely, sprawling outward rather than upward, their roots twisting like iron cables to cling against quakes and shifting soil. Others may grow broad and flat, mirrors of green, reflecting the fierce light back into the sky, protecting themselves from overheating. Their chemistry could be rich with pigments we do not know, colors beyond green, violet, or red tones, designed to sip energy from a star that burns hotter and longer than ours. To walk among such life would be surreal. Each step heavy with gravity, each sound muffled under dense air, each plant a monument to resilience. The forest would feel less like a place of softness and more like a fortress of living stone. But resilience has its edge. If life here is tough enough to endure stronger gravity and harsher radiation, then it may also be fierce. Imagine plants armed with thorns longer than your hand, or toxins designed to keep predators at bay. On Earth, beauty often disguises danger, poisonous flowers, stinging leaves, fruits that dazzle but deceive. On Kepler 452b, that balance may be magnified, every adaptation sharpened by necessity. The planet's greater mass means more volcanic activity too. Minerals churn upward, feeding strange biologies. Ash may darken skies, acid may drift in the air, and still the plants grow, bending to the weight of centuries, teaching us how life adapts when the world demands more of it. And beneath these forests, the ground itself is restless. Kepler 452b is alive not only on the surface but below, its plates grinding, its mountains rising, its valleys trembling. For here, the very earth beneath your feet is never still. Beneath every step we take on Earth, tectonic plates are in motion. Slowly, silently, they drift and grind, reshaping continents and raising mountains over millions of years. We notice them only when they tremble, reminding us that the ground is never truly still. On Kepler 452b, this quiet restlessness is magnified. The planet's mass is greater, its crust thicker, its mantle more active. With more weight pressing down, the forces stored beneath its surface grow immense. When they release, the ground does not simply shiver, it heaves, as though the entire planet is exhaling after holding its breath for centuries. Imagine standing in one of those alien forests, roots twisted deep into the soil, when the quake begins. At first, a faint vibration underfoot, like a distant drumbeat. Then the land shifts violently. Trees groaning as though alive, stones cracking, cliffs shedding rivers of rock. The air itself seems to hum with the energy released from below. The quakes of Kepler 452b would be unpredictable. sudden and stronger than most we know on Earth. Buildings, if ever built there, would need to be fortresses, anchored not just into the soil but into the bones of the planet itself. And yet, even the strongest walls might not withstand the shaking of a world 5 times Earth's mass. These quakes would reshape landscapes quickly. Mountains could rise in lifetimes. Valleys split open in days. Rivers, if they exist, might change course again and again, carving new paths with every tremor. It would be a land of constant renewal, but also of constant peril. There is a strange beauty in this violence. The planet is alive, shifting and growing, a reminder that even stone is not eternal. But for fragile human bodies, such a place would feel unsafe, unsettled, like trying to sleep while the bed beneath you never stops moving. And still, there are harsher places in the galaxy. Beyond quakes and heavy forests, there are worlds where the very surface is fire, and the ground is not stone but molten rivers of lava. One such place is Kepler 452b's distant cousin, 55 Cancri e, the planet of diamonds and flames. If Kepler 452b feels like an older cousin of Earth, then 55 Cancri e feels like a nightmare, dreamt by the cosmos itself. Astronomers call it a super-Earth, but its reality is more like a world forged from fire and jewel. Twice Earth's size, locked in orbit so close to its star that a single year there lasts less than 18 hours. It is a planet where extremes rule every corner. On the day side, the temperature soars above 2,400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt rock. The ground itself is not solid but molten, glowing rivers of lava stretching across the surface. Standing there would be like standing on the edge of a furnace that never cools, shimmering with heat. The air itself a haze of fire, and yet, buried beneath that inferno, lies something dazzling. Scientists believe a third of the planet's mass could be carbon, compressed under unimaginable pressure. Imagine it, a world where mountains might glitter faintly, where the crust hides riches beyond measure, a jewel wrapped in flames. But such beauty is unreachable. To set foot here is to step into death within seconds. The air, if it exists at all, would be a toxic soup of silicon oxides and carbon compounds, scorching the lungs before they ever filled. The lava beneath your feet would bubble and flow, swallowing any attempt at shelter. Even the strongest machines we know would wither here, melting long before they could drill into the hidden wealth below. It is a paradox of the cosmos, a planet that could be worth more than all the wealth of Earth, and yet it is entirely untouchable. The diamonds of 55 Cancri e will never be mined, never worn, never carried. They will remain forever in silence, locked within a world that refuses to share them. And still, there is a strange majesty in the thought of it. A planet that burns and sparkles at once, a jewel set too close to its star. To look upon it from afar would be to see a torch glowing with both danger and allure, a reminder that the universe creates beauty not for us, but for itself. But if 55 Cancri is a vision of fire, our next stop is its opposite, a world stripped bare, with no atmosphere at all, a planet where one side burns while the other freezes, and where silence itself feels heavy. That world is LHS 3844b. Imagine stepping down onto the day side of 55 Cancri e. The first thing you notice is not the landscape, but the heat itself, a wall of invisible fire pressing against you, heavier than any atmosphere you have ever known. The ground is not stone as we think of it, but a restless sea of molten rock, glowing orange and red, shifting and cracking with every breath of the planet. Each horizon shimmers, blurred by rising waves of heat. Rivers of lava flow like veins of liquid light, carving paths that shift with every tremor. The surface bubbles and spits, fountains of fire erupting where pressure forces molten stone upward, painting the sky with sparks before sinking back into the furnace below. The air, if one could call it that, would scald the lungs in an instant. Rich with silicon oxides and carbon, it would burn from the inside even as the ground burns from beneath. Every step would feel treacherous, the crust thin in places, ready to crack and reveal a deeper glow. There would be no safe shelter, no shadow cool enough to offer relief. Here, even darkness is hot, and yet, amid the terror, the world glitters with strange beauty. The molten rivers reflect the light of the nearby star, turning the surface into a mirror of fire. Crystals may form at the edges of cooling rock, refracting red and gold, as if the planet itself is studded with jewels. In the silence, one could almost imagine the ground humming, a low song of pressure and flame rising from its heart. For Earth, lava is rare, confined to volcanic craters, or hidden deep in the mantle. But on 55 Cancri E, it is everywhere: sky, ground, horizon, all touched by fire. To stand here is to realize that entire worlds can exist in states we only glimpse for moments back home. This is not a place for life as we know it. It is a crucible, a planet still burning in the hands of its star. And as if fire were not enough, hidden deep below the crust lies the diamond core, forever out of reach, forever locked inside this blazing shell. From here, our journey takes us away from fire, but not toward comfort. Next awaits a barren rock of extremes, a world stripped of atmosphere, where one side is seared by endless day and the other frozen in perpetual night. This is LHS 3844b. Beneath the blazing surface of 55 Cancri E, under layers of molten rock and crushing pressure, lies something almost impossible to imagine. Diamond, perhaps making up a third of the planet's mass, an entire world glittering within, a jewel the size of Earth itself. On Earth, diamonds are rare, precious, coveted. We cut them into stones that shine on rings, crowns, and tools, symbols of wealth and eternity. But here, on this hellish world, they are not treasures to be mined or worn. They are part of the very bones of the planet. Mountains could be diamond. Valleys could be laced with it. Entire continents might sparkle if the crust were ever stripped away. It is a paradox that feels almost like a story whispered by the universe. Unimaginable riches, locked forever behind walls of fire. No ship, no machine, no traveler could ever survive long enough to reach them. The diamonds of 55 Cancri A will never be touched by human hands. They belong to the planet alone, forged in its furnace, hidden in silence. And perhaps that is fitting. The cosmos does not create beauty for us. It creates because it can: stars burning, planets colliding, carbon pressed into crystal beneath the weight of alien skies. These diamonds exist not as treasures, but as reminders that nature's wealth is not measured in what we can possess, but in what we can imagine. From a telescope's eye, 55 Cancri E shines faintly against its star, its light flickering as it circles again and again. We will never see the jewels inside, but knowing they are there fills us with wonder and a quiet humility. Some doors are not meant to be opened, some beauty is meant to remain untouched, and so we leave this fiery diamond behind, drifting onward toward another extreme. Where 55 Cancri A burns with too much, the next world offers almost nothing at all. A barren rock stripped bare of air, split between fire and ice. LHS 3844b. Far from the blazing jewel of 55 Cancri E lies a planet that feels stripped to its core. LHS 3844b. If 55 Cancri is excess, this world is absence. No thick skies, no clouds, no protective veil. It is a naked planet, exposed directly to the will of its star. One side of this world always faces the light. There, the ground bakes at more than 760 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt metal, hot enough to erase any trace of water. The rocks themselves glow faintly, cracked and scorched, as though they are slowly dissolving beneath the heat. Turn to the other side, and you step into silence. Eternal night. Temperatures plunge hundreds of degrees below freezing. A cold so deep that even the air of your breath would turn brittle. Here, the ground lies frozen and shadowed, untouched by light. A graveyard of stillness. Between these two realms, fire and frost, there is no true middle ground. Without an atmosphere to carry warmth from one side to the other, the planet is locked in extremes, each half a mirror of the star it faces or the void it rejects. To stand here would be to feel the weight of emptiness. There is no air to breathe, no clouds to soften the sky, no rain to nourish or erode. The landscape is raw and silent, shaped only by heat and cold, by the violence of solar flares striking bare stone. And yet, there is a strange beauty in its desolation. The star above glows orange, casting sharp shadows across a surface that gleams like black glass. On the night side, the sky is so clear, it must look infinite galaxies strewn in clusters, stars burning like embers on a canvas of dark. But the silence here is not peace. It is danger, because without an atmosphere, the planet has no shield. Radiation falls freely, flares sweeping across the surface with every pulse of the star. On Earth, we rarely think about how much the air protects us. Here, you would learn it instantly. The absence of a sky is also the absence of safety. LHS 3844b reminds us that not all worlds are balanced. Some exist only at the extremes, too hot, too cold, too bare. And yet, even stripped of its shield, even silent and harsh, carries a strange dignity, a world that endures simply by being. But endurance has its limits. For when the star lashes out, even stone cannot hide. Look upward on LHS 3844b, and you see a sky like no other. There are no drifting clouds, no haze to soften the light, no blue veil like Earth's atmosphere to scatter the sun's rays. Instead, there is only blackness, pure, unbroken space. The star blazing against it with sharp, merciless clarity. On the day side, that clarity is a curse. The star's light falls directly onto the ground, unfiltered, turning every rock into an oven. Radiation streams in, striking the surface without resistance. Your suit, no matter how strong, could not block it forever. The invisible storm would pass through skin, through cells, unraveling life from the inside out. On the night side, the absence feels even heavier. The sky is filled with stars, thousands more than we ever see through Earth's veil of air. Galaxies twist faintly across the horizon, bands of light spanning the darkness. It is breathtaking, and yet, beneath such beauty lies the same danger. With no atmosphere, the radiation falls here too, silent and unstoppable. A constant reminder that even in darkness, you are not hidden. There is no shield, no protection, only exposure. On Earth, our atmosphere is an unnoticed guardian, scattering the sun's harshness into the soft warmth of daylight, filtering radiation into safe levels, carrying oxygen to our lungs. Here, the absence of that guardian is absolute. To stand under this empty sky is to stand naked before the universe itself, and still there is awe in it. Imagine looking up from the frozen side, your feet planted on stone colder than ice, and seeing the Milky Way stretched above you, every star crisp and clear. You would feel small, but also connected, aware of just how vast the cosmos is. How many worlds are scattered across the night, but beauty cannot erase danger. Without air, without water, without shelter, LHS 3844b is a reminder of how fragile life is. It is not a place to live, but a place to witness, a stage where the universe displays both its silence and its fury. From here, our journey turns inward again, away from barren rock and back to reflection. What do all these hostile worlds tell us about ourselves, about life, about the fragile miracle of Earth? As we drift from one planet to another, a pattern begins to reveal itself. Each world, though unique, shares a common truth. They are beautiful, but they are not kind. On Kepler 22b, the very air could drown you. On Trappist 1d, fire and ice clash in endless chaos. On Kepler 186 farads, spores and storms lurk in the gentlest of fields. On Proxima b, light itself becomes poison. On 55 Cancri e, the ground is molten. On LHS 3844b. Silence is as dangerous as flame. Everywhere we turn, the same story repeats. Too much heat, too much cold, too much pressure. The universe seems to remind us, again and again, that life, as we know it, is fragile, bound tightly to the narrow balance of our Earth. And yet, there is something strangely comforting in this cycle. The dangers do not mean the planets are failures. They are simply themselves, true to the physics and chemistry that shape them. One world breathes fire, another whispers with acid, another sits silent under an empty sky. Each is complete in its own way, even if that way does not welcome us. The cycle of death in space is not cruelty. It is simply truth. Life, if it exists elsewhere, will have adapted differently, finding harmony where we find only hazard. Perhaps somewhere, on some distant world, creatures thrive in acid rain or dance through radiation storms, calling home what we can only call hostile. To us, these worlds feel like warnings. But to the universe, they are variety expressions of what matter and energy can create. It blooms only when the balance is perfect, when everything leans together just enough to allow a fragile spark to take hold. And that spark, for us, is Earth. Every journey through these alien worlds brings us back to a simple realization. Our bodies are tuned to a narrow range air of a certain thickness, temperatures within a certain band, radiation kept at bay by Earth's magnetic field. Step outside those boundaries, and the balance unravels quickly. Our lungs, which work so easily here, collapse under pressure on Kepler 22b. Our skin, so resilient against Earth's weather, burns beneath the acid rain of Kepler 186 farads. Our cells, which renew themselves daily, fall apart under the radiation storms of Proxima b. Even the simple act of standing becomes impossible when gravity grows too strong, or when winds hurl rocks through the air. We are creatures of comfort, born into an environment that holds us gently. We do not thrive in fire or in ice. We do not endure storms that rage for centuries. We cannot breathe air too rich or too thin. Compared to the planets we have seen, our survival is delicate. And yet, within that fragility lies something remarkable. For despite our smallness, we reach outward. We study stars through telescopes. We name planets we cannot touch. We imagine what it would be like to stand beneath alien skies, even knowing we could not survive there. Fragility has not stopped us from dreaming, it has made us dream more deeply. Perhaps that is the true gift of these dangerous worlds. They remind us of what we are, but also of what we can imagine. They show us how thin the thread of life really is, and in doing so, they make us grateful for the one place where that thread holds firm. That place is Earth. The rare, improbable oasis where all the conditions line up just right, and where our fragile lungs, hearts, and minds can rest in balance. After wandering through so many hostile worlds, it feels almost miraculous to return, even in thought, to our own. Earth, our cradle, our shelter, our unlikely refuge. Here, the air is not too thick, nor too thin. It carries the exact balance of oxygen we need. Not enough to poison, not too little to starve. Each breath is effortless, unnoticed, until we compare it to the crushing skies of Kepler 2b, or the empty silence of LHS 3844b. Here, rain falls as water, clear and nourishing. It soaks into soil, feeds rivers, gathers into oceans. It does not burn the ground like acid storms on Kepler 186 farads, nor hiss and vanish in the heat of 55 Cancri E. It sustains life in endless cycles, every droplet a promise renewed. Here, gravity holds us firmly but gently. It roots us without crushing us. We can run, leap, swim, and stretch toward the sky, unburdened by the heavy pull of super-Earths. Our world's weight is not a prison, but a rhythm. One our bodies learned long before memory. And here, we are protected. The magnetic field deflects the sun's harshest storms, sparing us from the fate of Proxima b. The atmosphere above scatters light into blue, filters radiation into warmth, and shields us against countless dangers from space. Earth's very skin is a guardian, invisible but constant. We call it ordinary because we have known nothing else. But compared to the silence, storms, and extremes of the exoplanets, Earth is extraordinary. It is rare beyond measure, a world where life not only survives, but flourishes in millions of forms, from the smallest microbe to the beating heart within us. And perhaps the greatest wonder is this: Earth has not asked for anything in return. It simply offers, quietly, patiently, waiting for us to notice. Astronomers tell us we have confirmed more than 5,000 exoplanets, 5,000 alien worlds, each circling its own star, each carrying a story we have only begun to guess. And beyond those, there may be hundreds of billions more, scattered like grains of sand across the galaxy. Some are giants, larger than Jupiter, swirling with storms so vast they could swallow Earth whole. Others are rocky, small and dense, orbiting so close to their stars that their years pass in hours. Some drift far from any light at all, frozen in eternal night, silent wanderers of the dark. Each planet is a possibility, a canvas painted by physics, chemistry, and time. Some hold skies so heavy that breathing would crush us. Some shimmer with seas of methane, or with clouds that rain glass sideways in furious winds. Some tempt us with Earth-like shapes and orbits, whispering of oceans and forests that might, somewhere, still exist. And yet, despite the harshness, we look at them with wonder. For every world we discover reminds us that Earth is not alone. The universe is not a desert, but a field of endless seeds, scattered wide, growing into forms both familiar and strange. When you gaze up at the night sky, every star you see may hold planets of its own, whole systems turning quietly, unseen. To realize this is to feel both small and infinite. Small, because our world is just one among countless others. Infinite, because we are part of something vast, a galaxy alive with possibility. Not all those worlds will welcome us. Most will not. But their existence is still a gift, a reminder that the universe is richer than we can ever touch. And within that richness lies a dream that somewhere, in all that vastness, life may have taken root again. Since the first time humans looked up at the night sky, we have wondered, what lies beyond? The stars have always been more than light. They have been promises, calling us toward other shores. And now, with each new exoplanet discovered, that dream grows brighter. We imagine stepping onto a new world, feeling alien soil beneath our feet. We imagine skies painted in colors no artist has ever captured, oceans reflecting stars we have never seen from Earth. Even when we know these planets are hostile, part of us still longs to touch them, to test the limits of what it means to be alive. It is not survival alone that drives this dream, it is curiosity. The same curiosity that once carried us across oceans on fragile ships now urges us across light years, carried not by sails but by telescopes, spacecraft, and the reach of imagination. Each exoplanet we study becomes more than a point of data. It becomes a story. Kepler 2.2b reminds us of balance. TRAPPIST-1 shows us the beauty of crowded skies. Kepler 186 farads whispers of other Earths. Proxima b warns of restless stars. 55 Cancri dazzles with unreachable wealth. LHS 3844b humbles us with silence. Together, they form a chorus that tells us what the universe is capable of. And perhaps one day, our descendants will go where we cannot. They may build ships strong enough to cross the distance, to step onto those alien shores, to breathe under skies once thought unlivable. To them, these places will not be distant dreams, but lived realities. For now, we remain here, imagining. But imagination is powerful. Every world we picture, every shore we dream of, brings us closer to understanding our place in the cosmos. The dangers of these distant worlds could feel frightening if we held onto them too tightly. But in the stillness of night, they can also be heard as part of a larger song, a cosmic lullaby, played in notes of fire, wind, and silence. The storms of Kepler 22b, with their lightning that splits the sky, become the low drums of a universe keeping time. The acid rains of Kepler 186 farads are not just destruction, but the patter of a strange and otherworldly rhythm, a reminder that water is not the only voice the clouds can carry. The winds of Trappist 1d, rushing endlessly from fire to frost, are like the breath of a giant, exhaling across the void. The radiation of Proxima b, harsh and relentless, glows like a fierce lantern, dangerous to us. Yes, but still, a light in the dark. Even the molten ground of 55 Cancri E has its place. A blazing hymn of creation, burning with the memory of a young universe. And the silence of LHS 3844b, the empty sky without air or cloud, is perhaps the most haunting verse of all. For in its silence, you hear the truth of space itself, vast, indifferent, eternal, yet filled with beauty that shines brightest when nothing stands in the way. Each planet is a voice, and together they form a chorus, not for us alone, but for anyone who listens. Science gives us the facts, the numbers, the chemistry, but when we listen closely, those facts become poetry. They remind us that the universe is not just a place of survival, it is a place of stories, waiting to be told. And as we drift through this lullaby, the dangers begin to soften. They are no longer threats, but reminders that Earth is rare, that life is precious, and that wonder can be found even in places we cannot touch. Our voyage through alien worlds has carried us far across fire, ice, storms, and silence. We have walked on molten ground, stood beneath acid skies, and felt the invisible weight of radiation. Each planet showed us something new, something strange, something that reminded us both of wonder and of danger. And now, as the journey slows, we pause beneath the stars once more. They spread out across the sky like lanterns, countless and eternal. Each one holds its own worlds, its own mysteries. We will never see them all, never walk every shore, never breathe under every sky. But perhaps we do not need to. Perhaps it is enough to know they are there, silent companions, glowing gently above us. It is humbling, isn't it? To realize that Earth, our small blue world, is one note in an endless symphony. And yet, it is the note we know best, the one that holds us, feeds us, shelters us. After wandering among dangers, returning here feels like coming back to a warm light after drifting through shadow. So let us rest a moment. Let us stand still under the stars, listening to the quiet, feeling the vastness stretch above. The universe is endless, but tonight, we are safe here. Our eyes close, not in fear of the dark, but in peace with it, because the dark is not empty. It is full of worlds, full of light, full of stories still waiting to be told. And so, our drifting ends where it began here, on Earth. After wandering across distant worlds, we return to the one place that welcomes us fully. The air here is kind, the rain nourishes, the winds refresh instead of destroy. The sunlight warms without burning. This fragile balance is what makes Earth not only our home, but our haven. As you breathe now, feel how natural it is, how effortless. Every inhale is a gift of balance. Oxygen just enough, pressure just right. Every sound you hear, rain, leaves, the hum of life, is a reminder that this planet sings a song no other has matched. Beyond the sky, the universe remains vast, filled with fire and silence, with endless possibilities both beautiful and terrifying. But here, in this small corner, we are safe. We are held, and in that safety, we are free to wonder, to dream, to imagine all the stories yet untold among the stars. So let the weight of the day slip away. Let the journey we've shared settle in your thoughts like starlight on water, soft, shimmering, calm. The universe will still be there tomorrow, waiting, For now, you are here. And here is enough. Good night, Earth. And good night to you, dreamer beneath the stars. If you wish to wander again, if you wish to drift through science told as story, through worlds that soothe even as they astonish, subscribe and return for the next bedtime journey. The cosmos is vast, and our stories have only just begun.